Welcome back, guys, to Random Rants with the Plaid Guy. Today we are going to be talking about something different. No, I haven't seen Deadpool 2 yet. I'm supposed to go see it this weekend, and I'll give you a full review of it. But today we're going to talk about an old movie, one that is one of my favorite movies of all time. And it's also, to me, one of the most influential movies. It is A Clockwork Orange. If you haven't seen this movie, it's not for the faint of heart. In A Clockwork Orange, it's a British film, ironically made by an American director, Stanley Kubrick, who's my favorite director of all time. But the whole story is about, in the sort of far future, there's a guy named Alex who has a gang of drooges who are his friends. They're supposed to be like high schoolish age, like 16, 17, 18, I think. But the whole point of it is they go out and they do violence. They literally beat up like homeless bums. At one point, by the way, spoiler alert, forgot to say that. They at one point break into a woman's house. He says that he's hurt and he needs to use her phone because this is the 70s and we didn't think cell phones existed yet. And him and his friends just completely wreck the place and like rape the guy's wife right in front of him while he's singing in the rain. Funny story about that, I'll tell you later. But the big twist comes in at one point. He gets arrested and sent to jail. While he's in jail, he volunteers for the Luvugo? I can't remember the name right now. He volunteers for a special new kind of treatment where he's showing violent images to desensitize him and make him normal. This works for a while, but then he becomes weaker, especially when there are more things that happen later in the film, which I won't get into real quick. This movie is one of my favorites. I originally was assigned to do, in school, I was taking Art 2D, and we had to watch a series of films by different directors, who the teacher had known as being very artistic. Stanley Kubrick was one of them. Stanley Kubrick was the infamous, very reclusive director. He gave very little interviews in his life. Some might say he was autistic because one of the things is he loved to just explore, discover things. And he loved his toys. He loved cameras. He originally got into the New York School of Film, which is still very prestigious. He also loved chess to death. And you can tell a lot of this in a lot of his films because they're very centered. There's composition, there's negative space. His films look like no other film. The colors are on point. They're just gorgeous. He's also not so kind to his actors, as there are stories about how normal films will take about 20 to 30 takes on a scene, depending on how complex the shot is. Stanley Kubrick loved to go over 100. Because he came from the school of photography where you gotta take 100 pictures in order to get one perfect film. Or one perfect picture. Now, it's extreme. He's had people actually break down on set. However, the films are just absolute masterpieces when they come out. He is very much a workaholic. He does his research to the bone. To the point where, at one point, Napoleon, which was supposed to be his dream project, he never got off the ground due to financing. But he was trying to figure out the formula to send to send a helicopter over a battle scene to get the right angle for the shot he wanted. This is how extreme this guy was. And there's the famous story where Malcolm McDowell, who plays Alex in the movie, he does a lot of voiceover work. He would go to Stanley's house to do the voiceover work, and he would go and play ping pong with Vivian, who was about his age and she was living at home. He would play ping pong with her. Well, this was after sessions of recording, he'd go play ping pong. Well, he got his check from Warner Brothers, and it wasn't as much as he thought it was going to be. So he went to Stanley personally, asked what up with this, and Stanley Kubrick takes out this little slider and goes, 30 minutes of work, it was this amount of pay, it's this and this and this. The guy had it planned out like that. And so Malcolm McDowell ended up suing Warner. Warner's asked him to drop the suit in exchange for the money plus a little bit extra to make him happy. But that's how very minute and very like detailed Stanley Kubrick was. Now, talking about the movie itself is one of my favorites for the factor of it looks like nothing else. It's definitely a 70s period piece. It's what the people thought the future of the 70s was going to be like. But it really does add to its kind of like uniqueness. It really adds to what makes the film stand out, which a lot of modern blockbusters really don't anymore. Nobody knows how to stand out. Everybody wants to look the same. I'm looking at you DC movies who try to think they're Marvel. Long story short, that'll be another rant at some time. But the movie just works on a level where you can appreciate it for art, you can appreciate it for being a human story, especially when the big twists come later on. Now, the big thing is the ending. The movie was originally based on a book by Alex Burgess. I have the book. I haven't read it yet. The reason is because the movie does a little bit, but the book does a lot more, where they use a different language for the future. And it's a lot of mixture of Russian and English words mixed around. And it kind of is hard to break into if you read the book. The movie does it visually, which I feel like Stanley Kubrick knew what he was doing with that. But the book is kind of hard to break into because you're having trouble trying to imagine things. Now, the ending of the book, spoiler alert, by the way. So, the rest of the movie, after Alex gets out of jail, he eventually runs into some of his old gang who are police officers who start abusing him. In fact, at one point, they put him in a trough that was filled with water. They put him under, and they start hitting it. So he hears the vibrations, and he starts freaking out. By the way, in that scene, there was a thing for Malcolm McDowell to clamp onto when they put his head underwater so he could breathe. He was supposed to keep going back to it. He missed it, kept falling around to be like, you need to stop. So Kubrick thought it was part of the movie and kept going, and he almost killed him. But, it wouldn't be funny if he died, but it's funny now. But, what was I going to say? The big twist. And eventually he runs back into the house of the guy whose wife he raped, who eventually tortures Alex and reveals that. And Alex has a nervous breakdown. Eventually he gets committed to a hospital wherein he says he's cured, and it ends with one of my favorite images. This like very traditional choir in the middle of him and a naked woman. By the way, there's a lot of nudity in this movie. Now, that's the ending of the movie. The book ending is where he goes and finds a new gang of drudges, but then sees one of his old gang who's got a wife and kids. And Alex decides right then and there to give it up because maybe it's time to grow up. The book has a lot more closure than the movie. In fact, Burgess hated the movie so much so that he would make fun of Stanley Kubrick until he died. He made fun of him for just completely missing the point. But you can kind of see where Burgess is coming from with this. I really highly recommend the movie. I really recommend that you go and check it out. It's not too long of a movie. It is a little extreme. Like I said, there are rape scenes in the movie. But if you watch it, you're going to come away with it with a better appreciation. And it's one of the first movies that hit me that movies can be art too. Anyway, that's Random Rants to Play, guys, and see y'all later.